Good morning and welcome to the United Workers' Party weekly press briefing. And this morning we have here, along with me, the leader of the opposition. And between us we will be speaking on a couple of topics, namely health, the CIP, and one or two other pertinent issues. So I will start off, but first let me welcome all of you viewing on live stream, those of you viewing around St Lucia, and a special welcome to those of you viewing in the diaspora. We welcome you, as always, and we hope that what we provide here by way of information will be refreshing and informative to you. So, the state of healthcare in St Lucia. Of late, we have heard quite a lot about the dire state of healthcare in St Lucia. We have seen letters from the St Lucia Medical and Dental Association, the people directly involved in the dispensing of healthcare in St Lucia, and they have described the situation as the worst that it has ever been in the history of St Lucia. Now let's look at the root cause of the problem. And the root cause of our health care situation in St Lucia is leadership. Out of leadership stems all the other problems that we encounter and face. Just imagine, with the mass exodus of staff from our hospital, medical and administrative staff, our Prime Minister's response was that it is normal for people to move on to greener pastures. As if not understanding the serious implications that belies the citizens of this country when there is a medical institution that is either unstaffed or understaffed. Who is going to provide the care to St. Lucians should they be ill and have to go to our medical institutions? Does not the Prime Minister have any concern about the lives of St. Lucians? And why is it, first of all, that our staff, both medical and administrative, are leaving in droves? That is a leadership problem. The government of St. Lucia has a responsibility to address the many problems that has been brought to their attention, not only by the citizens, but no less the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association. But instead, when the problem was highlighted by the association, a government minister, member of cabinet, responded by calling the president of the association names, in the presence of the Prime Minister, who later pretended that he did not hear the comments. That is what passes for leadership in this country today, and it is small wonder that we face so many crises that is of the government's making. And so, if you take, for example, the situation in the South with the St. Jude's Hospital, Alan Chasney-led administration began the construction of a state-of-the-art, built-for-purpose, modern hospital. In that hospital, you had all kinds of modern facilities, including a helipad. Instead of completing this hospital, which would have taken the government just about 6 months after assuming office, they abandoned the project, called it all kinds of names, referred to it as a box, and instead borrowed an additional over $200 million to refurbish an 80-year-old building that was not built for the purpose of being a hospital and that has outlived its usefulness. Instead of attempting for the last 3 years to retrofit a hospital, and by the way, we have no idea when that hospital will be completed, and in the meantime, the people of the South are perishing. They are experiencing all kinds of difficulties and complications as a result of the fact that the hospital is in a makeshift facility, the George Odlum Stadium. We hear talk of the generator failing to come on from time to time when there is a loss of power from the mains, which is in itself a dire situation for a hospital. You expect that at a health facility such as a hospital, that your standby generator will kick in automatically, immediately upon the loss of electricity from the mains. That in itself can have consequences for the lives of the patients in that hospital. Again, we look at what it obtains at the George Odlum Stadium. We have a facility, the structure of which is literally crumbling. The George Odlum Stadium is literally falling apart. And what do we have there? All kinds of infestation, including stray animals, at a health facility. That cannot be acceptable, and the government must be taken to task for allowing a situation such as this. It seems very unfortunate that the Minister of Health, who represents the area near where the hospital is situated, who found, while in opposition, many reasons to visit and to put on lives, criticizing what was going on at the time, now seemed to have abandoned the hospital and cannot find his way to the hospital to see for himself firsthand, as a parliamentary representative for the area and the minister responsible for health in St Lucia, and to address the situation and make it better and to alleviate the plight of not just the workers, but to save the lives of our citizens. So what do you have? They keep making reference to the state-of-the-art hospital as the box. Meanwhile, their counterpart, who was brought to St. Lucia just over a week ago, okay, is literally laughing at us. Because guess what? The same OECC that was contracted to build the state-of-the-art hospital has been contracted in St. Vincent to build a hospital, a brand new hospital in St. Vincent. And I can bet anything that the design may be exactly the same as what obtains in St. Lucia. So while our government rather, is making a mockery of what good governance and leadership ought to be, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez in St. Lucia, in St. Vincent, sorry, making strides and laughing at us. Do not forget, not too long ago, he showed us up by indicating that a St. Lucian had to travel to St. Vincent to get medical care that could not be obtained here in St. Lucia. This is not the kind of medical care situation that we deserve in St. Lucia. Remember, the Allen-led administration, Alan Chasney-led administration, proposed for us not just medical insurance, where we would have $75,000, up to $75,000 worth of surgery, but also, upon completion of the state-of-the-art hospital, not only would St. Jude's be relocated to a first-class facility, but upstairs would have been developed into an international hospital where specialized care could be provided, not just to St. Lucians, but to begin what could be termed as health tourism. That has all gone down the drain because of the myopia of our leaders in government today. I want to also mention the fact that there is a problem at St. Jude in terms of the conditions of work for the staff and the atmosphere for the patients. Of course, that is expected because the George Odlum Stadium was not built for a hospital. It was built as a sports facility. But if your government really cared, not only would they have continued the state-of-the-art hospital and that you would have been into that facility 2.5 years ago, but given the fact that there is no end in sight as to when St. Jude's will be relocated, in the interim, I want to bring to the attention of St. Lucians that in St. Lucia there exists a field hospital that can be set up just about in any location, and I'm sure you can find ideal locations in Vieux-Fort where that field hospital can be set up, and it will provide, in terms of capacity, 40 beds, as well as all the necessary medical facilities that is required. It has air conditioning, it has heating, it has a standby generator, or its own generator rather, where you can set up a first-class hospital in that field hospital where the conditions will be far better than what obtains at the George Odlum Stadium. So for the last 2 years, this hospital has been on island. And I want to inform St. Lucians, I'm mentioning this because I remember in 2020, when the Alan Chasney-led administration negotiated for that hospital during the COVID pandemic. That hospital took a little time to get here. It got here sometime around January, February in 2022, and has been on island ever since. If you had a government who cared, a prime minister who was concerned about the welfare and well-being of its people, of our people, and a minister of health who was concerned about doing the job that he was appointed to do, that hospital would have been set up by now to ease the burden on the staff operating on the makeshift George Odlum Stadium. That in itself, again, is another demonstration of the lack of vision, the lack of planning, and the lack of concern of a myopic government. So, I end by saying, once again, with all the medical crises, the health crises that exist in St. Lucia, and not only do we have a problem at OKU where we have a mass exodus of staff, we do not have medication, we do not have supplies. We have a situation in St. Jude's where the facility is falling apart and staff are also leaving. We have a a field hospital that could have been utilized to upgrade the conditions for the staff and the patients. We also have a situation where, for example, in the city, where we have health facilities closing down. So it is years now that the Castries Health Center has been closed. The Marshall Health Center is also closed. I'm talking about areas where you have a high density of population, where only the Entrepot Health Center is available to service all the residents in those highly populated areas. That is unacceptable. And we are calling on the government to recognize that we have a major crisis in health in St. Lucia and that it needs urgent attention and they need to address it immediately. When you do not address the health situation in your country, you are putting the lives of your people at risk, and you are severely hampering the productivity of your country. So, again, we call on the Prime Minister to take responsibility, carry out his duty, and stop passing the buck and pretending that he does not know anything. At this juncture, I will call on the leader of the opposition, who may have some more to say on the health situation, but we'll also touch on a couple other topics, such as the CIP, and of course, the situation as exists in the Ministry of Housing currently. I thank you as I invite to the podium the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Alan Chasney.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to try to be thorough, but brief at the same time, and to remain extremely factual this morning. St. Lucia currently is on the brink of collapse. We see it in healthcare, we see it in crime, security, we see it in the state of our economy, and certainly with the level of corruption in this country, which is at an unprecedented level. Corruption that is taking away funds from the state to do the necessary things. A small example of that is the announcement by the government that they're going to be suspending inter-school sports. I'm on record from the time that this loan was done with the NLA, the National Lotteries Association, of $80 million, where the NLA borrowed $80 million to spend on, still up to now, Projects we don't know. We don't know what the complete list of projects that the NLA was embarking upon. We don't know what the cost was. We don't know how contractors were identified and how were contracts issued. But here's what we do know, is the young people of this country have been robbed. That loan is going to cost $800,000 a month for 15 years. So for the next 15 years, the NLA will have to take $800,000 a month to pay back a loan for projects that we don't know what they are. And we're seeing how the young people of this country are already being exposed and have to pay the price for this incompetence and corruption of this government. The monies for the inter-school programs were coming from the NLA. So $800,000 a month that would have gone into scholarships, $800,000 a month that would go into supporting sports programs throughout this country, $800,000 that would help support our elite athletes has vanished with no accountability. I want to focus this morning on citizenship by investment and the recent statements in the House by the Minister of CIP. So let's put some facts on the table. One, the only report that was tabled in the House was a report that it was 18 months late. The report was for the period of April 2022 until March of 2023. 18 months ago. The report for April of 2023 to March of 2024 is now legally overdue. So those two critical reports. Secondly, instead of holding a major press conference where he could have delivered this speech, the speech he gave in the House, the statement he gave in the House, and then allowed reporters and maybe even people from civil society to have been there to question him online. Instead, he chose the cowardly way of dealing with this issue, to go into Parliament and use what's called the minister's statement. Minister's statement comes as one of the first agenda items in our order paper, and while the minister is giving his speech, there is to be no interruptions, and no questions are allowed to be asked. And even during the day, we're not allowed to bring up any or ask any questions as to what the minister stated. That's why I call it the cowardly way of dealing with this issue. So Mr. Minister and the government, Prime Minister, you all have not dealt with this. You all have run away. And in fact, what that statement did, it asked and it begs for more questions to be answered. So let me take a few. The minister did not deal with the fact that when Galaxy came to St Lucia, and yes, my government was the one who brought and invited Galaxy to St Lucia, and an escrow account was set up. The minister is on record as saying this escrow account does not include the government of St Lucia. That is an absolute lie. Why would our act call for an escrow account if it was not being set up to protect the government and the people of St Lucia? The transaction is a simple transaction. Galaxy is given permission to sell citizenships of St Lucia, and in exchange, the monies that they collect are to go into building a hotel. The hotel originally cost $310 million US. And we gave Galaxy permission to sell $210 million US worth of citizenship, and they would have had to bring the other $100 million to the table. The minister didn't put those facts on the table like that. What we want to know, Mr. Minister, the question that has been asked by everyone, because we now know what the truth is. The truth is that you have given Galaxy now permission to sell $1.2 billion worth of citizenships. The question we've been asking is, why? You tried in some way to justify it by saying that there was an increase in cost, that the hotel was going to be expanded. What you failed to tell the St. Lucians and to the public that you're accountable to, if it cost $310 million before, with all of these new things that you say have happened, how much is the hotel going to cost now? And the fact that you would have given them $1.2 billion of files or approvals to sell, it becomes even a more important question to answer. What you did say is that as of August of this year, 2024, that Galaxy had sold $380 million US worth of citizenships, and that money is supposed to be in the escrow account. You admitted and agreed that every single month the escrow agent provides you with a status as to how much money is in the account, how much money they've received, and very importantly, that you did not touch on, how much money has been drawn down from the $380 million US. You did not answer any of those questions. The escrow account, Mr. Minister, was set up to protect two entities. One being the public of St. Lucia, that the contract between Galaxy and the CIP unit requires the money to be in an escrow account in order to safeguard the money, to ensure that the money is being spent on the hotel. That's the requirement. So this idea that the money doesn't belong to the people of St. Lucia is absurd and, again, a categorical lie. If the money didn't belong to the people of St. Lucia, why would we go through the process of having an escrow account? And you remember, the idea of the escrow account was put in your administration's initial legislation. Can't run away from the facts. The other question you must ask ourselves, who else is being protected in the escrow account? The persons who are buying citizenships through Galaxy are getting shares in the hotel. That's right. That they ultimately will be the owner of the hotel by purchasing citizenships in St. Lucia. So the escrow account was set up also to protect them, that they would know that when they gave the money to Galaxy in the escrow account, that that money was being protected to make sure that the hotel was going to be built. So those are the two entities that had to be protected. Mr. Minister, you also failed to explain to the people adequately what is happening with the infrastructure program. You indicated in your statement that my administration called it an illegal program simply because you had not gazetted the projects. That's true. But what you've put in the gazettes still does not satisfy the legislation. The Gazette doesn't explain to us what infrastructure programs that Galaxy is going to do. What roads? What bridges? What are they building? Who has done the costing? Where's the contract between Galaxy and the government of St Lucia? Because we know how a direct finance construct project works. The contractor must meet with the Ministry of Infrastructure, approve the designs, approve the costings. You must meet with the Ministry of Finance to figure out how much you're going to get repaid for this. And then ultimately, you're supposed to meet with the Ministry of CIP also to finalize those details. Why is that important? It's not until there is a certificate of completion. A certificate of completion is given by the Ministry of Infrastructure or whichever ministry is the executing agency to assure us that the work has been completed. So it's only when that certificate of completion is done that the CIP unit can issue the citizenship certificates. We are no wiser today. Nobody has a clue what projects, how much they're going to cost, what is the executing ministry. You spent over an hour and a half in the house. And the relevant details have been, in my estimation, deliberately avoided because once the information is provided, then the corruption of this administration becomes more apparent to everyone. Because in the infrastructure program, you have been on record to say that Galaxy is going to do $100 million of work. Yet, the government has given them permission to sell $700 million of citizenships. We've put you on record to see what's going on in St. Kitts because Galaxy did the same thing in St. Kitts with the prison program. You provided no answers. We hear about Rock Hall. All you gazetted was the name Rock Hall. How many houses? How much the house is going to cost? Who at the end of the day is going to own the houses? How are those persons going to be selected? The persons that have elected you and put you in office demand those basic answers. How can anybody in the public judge whether this is a program and a project that's good for them if they don't know how much it's going to cost us? Allowing persons to sell our patrimony is the asset of the citizens of this country. And the same way that you must be held accountable for the taxpayers' money is the same way you must be held accountable for CIP funds. You cannot come and tell people of this country that this is for their good. What? What is it you're offering the people of St. Lucia? These details matter because you're talking about transparency and accountability, and it's for the public of St. Lucia to make the final determination as to whether they think they're getting value for money. That's what you're there for, to manage the assets of the state. Are you providing the people of this country with value, or are you providing value to yourself? And in the absence of the answers, then we must say to you directly that this is another corrupt act. And we must right the wrong. Even more egregious is the garbage that you're attempting to sell to the people of this country on Bmax. Who's ever heard in their life a person is not arrested but they're on bail? That's what you want to convince us? The fact is that Bmax was labeled as a criminal organization, regardless of who is at the head. The person who was arrested, it was because at the time he was the head. How do you want to come and convince us at this point that the company is okay and that you're satisfied that a new person has come in? Garbage. Lie. The whole Bmax situation smells of a rat. Even the timeline that you gave us. So you met them in 2022, you signed a contract with them in November, and they only created a company in St Lucia in December. He was arrested in February, and you're coming out with an SI in September and backdating it to January. Why? The same thing for Galaxy. What is Bmax doing? How many homes? How much are they costing? You didn't answer those questions. You didn't even attempt to answer those questions. You tried to minimize the impact of the criminal activities by saying that this was cigarette smuggling. This is the mass production of counterfeit cigarettes. That's why they called it a criminal organization. And it's estimated they've cost Montenegro over $1 billion in tax revenues. Of all the companies in the world, this is what you can find? In something as sacred as selling our passports, our citizenship? You want to bring a criminal organization? Do you have no shame? Mr. Minister and Mr. Prime Minister, it is the intention of the government, of the opposition, to file a judicial review on the infrastructure program. And I already see your attempts to try to convince the public of St. Lucia that the purpose of filing this is to prevent any progress. No. The filing of this judicial review is to hold this government accountable. And if you've done nothing wrong, and if you believe that you're adding value to the public of St. Lucia, then provide the information. How much money are you allowing Galaxy to collect on the infrastructure program? How much money are you allowing Bmax to collect? What are the projects that both Bmax and Galaxy are going to do? What is the value of those projects? And when are they going to get done? That is the job of the opposition, is to provide, one, an opposing view, and to do everything that we can to hold this government accountable to the rule of law and to the people who elected them. What you have done in the infrastructure program, in our estimation, is illegal and tantamount to corruption. Illegal because there is no prevailing legislation that tells anyone how this program works and how the people of St. Lucia are going to be protected. There's no confirmation as to how much money they're spending. There's no confirmation as to how the government and the state will know if they spent the money. And there's no confirmation in the legislation as to how this whole process works. At what point does the CIP unit start issuing certificates of citizenship? We don't know, because it's not written into the legislation. I want to move to another very important and frustrating issue. And I think that what I call the Castries crisis really brings into sharp view the problem with healthcare. We have a situation where Castries East, the Prime Minister, Castries South, the Deputy Prime Minister. Castries North, the Senior Minister. And Castries Central, the want-to-be Prime Minister of this country. 4 senior ministers representing almost 60,000 people. And over the last 2 years have seen the health, access to health by those 60,000 people deteriorate at a fast pace. The Clary Health Center is open, but it's dysfunctional. The Castries Healthcare Center on the Chaussee has been closed. The Marsha Health Center has been closed. And the Entrepot Healthcare Center is only open on a part-time basis. That means that 60,000 people are depending on OKEU for their basic health needs. A hospital that is struggling to provide its national requirements to the country. We hear the horror stories every day. And that is being made worse because anything that goes wrong, the first place that people from the Castries Basin are going to go to is OKEU. And none of you have nothing to say? No solution to the problems? It's past shameful. Spider mentioned the field hospital. When we realized that we were going to be in St. Jude's longer than we anticipated, we made the request of the U.S. government, and I'm very proud and very grateful to the U.S. citizens for providing us with a field hospital from the Army. South Command, to be more specific, 40 beds. As Spider said, how come with all the problems at St. Jude's that hospital has not been set up yet? And even in the absence of doing so, don't you think that it would have been a good idea, given what's taken place in the Castries Basin, to have set up that hospital in the Castries Basin, to take pressure off of OKEU, and to provide the people that you represent? Because all 4 constituencies are represented by the SLP. You represent them. Don't you think that you would have, by now, set up the field hospital? But as I told a friend, he said, where is it? I said, where is what? He said, the field hospital. I said, the field hospital is in storage. The same place that the promises that the Labour Party made to the people of St. Lucia in 2021, those promises are also in storage. That's where they are. You all have failed the people of this country. And that is why we're saying to the people of St. Lucia, it is time for us to right the wrong. This government has proven time and time again that despite the very clear evidence in front of them, they are going to interpret the truth the way they want to. Remember, Mr. Prime Minister, when you criticized me when I said that today the truth has become what people want to believe. Well, you were putting that into practice because every day evidence is being provided to you of the level of corruption. You made promises as to what you would do to hold people accountable, and you have not. So I also want to say today that this situation that's taking place in the Ministry of Housing, where it appears that there is a fake contract of $99,500 issued to a contractor to do work in Mon Repos on the graveyard, work that was already being done and paid for by another contractor. We have accumulated all of the information that we have, the contracts and a whole bunch of other information. And we'll be making that information available early next week to the special prosecutor, to the DPP, and to the Auditor General. We'll also provide information to civil society. And Mr. Prime Minister, you cannot run away from this one. The corruption is clear, that a fake contract was issued. And it's questionable what the contractor was paid to do. And this demands an immediate suspension of the PS. And also that this minister that you have in housing that has been a one-man wrecking machine to this country, not now, but from the time he has entered politics in this country. He has lied, he has manipulated, and has been involved in some of the largest scandals in this country. And Mr. Prime Minister, if you have an ounce of integrity that's left, you will do the right thing and right the wrong. It is time to right the wrong. The opposition will remain focused and steadfast. As I've indicated to the people of this country, I will be there to stand by your side and to lead all along. I am proud of two of the new persons that we've nominated to be our candidates, the former Peter Chico and Rosh Clark, who are heading the charge this morning at the Castries Health Center. We will continue to go to the public and out in the public and solicit the public's support to protest at every opportunity that they have. That is their individual rights as citizens of this country, to highlight the grievances that are taking place, and that there are people who are willing to stand up to this country, to this government, and to right the wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, political leader, leader of the opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard for yourself. It has become time to right the wrong. And there is a lot that is going wrong in this country today. And we hold our government responsible for all the wrongs that are taking place right now. You heard mention of the health crises that we have in this country. You heard mention of another scandal in the Ministry of Housing with fake contracts being issued. You heard as well what is happening where today our young boys and girls cannot enjoy the privilege of having school sports because you're told that the Ministry of Sports does not have the requisite finance to put on school sports. And I remember very well when the leader of the opposition spoke about the borrowing of $80 million by the National Lottery, and it was said that it was for preparation for World Cup. We were not told how that money was being spent. We were not told who the contractor was. We were not told exactly what was being done with that money. I recall then when he warned that that is supposed to be money to provide for programming in sports, and we would recall that it was mentioned that about $80,000 every month had to be paid. $800,000 a month had to be the repayment for that loan. And that is just about the amount of money that the National Lottery makes a month. So it leaves nothing else to be used up for the programs, to put on programs for the youth and sports. I remember thinking, that would be a problem as well, but I must confess, maybe unlike the leader of the opposition, I did not expect that would come to pass so soon. That already we are seeing the consequences of the recklessness of our government and poor leadership and lack of vision of our government. So today, our children cannot enjoy school sports. Now, I understand that they gave us an excuse that is because of expenses that went into the homecoming for Julian Alfred. That is shameful. And those excuses cannot work. The government feels that there's no justification, but if they use the good name of Julian Alfred, that would pacify the public. It will not work. It is because of your recklessness, your mishandling of our resources. That is why we find ourselves in this situation. Because when the United Workers' Party government brought in Cage, in addition to the previous operator that was in this country, to put on the video lotteries, it was to enhance the revenue capacity of the National Lottery, to ensure that not only could assistance be given to national associations, but that sports programming could be financed by the Ministry of Sports. And today, all that has gone down the drain because of the poor decisions of the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the government of St. Lucia. I sympathize with the children of this country because sports, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, was always one of the aspects that made me look forward to school. And it is one of the things that is most memorable by school children when they got to participate in sports and were able to showcase themselves and feel like they were champions themselves. That is what the legacy of Julian Alfred ought to be. Not to say to us that today, after producing an Olympic champion, we cannot even have school sports in our country. A shame and a disgrace on the part of the government. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you who have been following us this morning, those of you who are watching on live stream, and I also want to say, as usual, a special thank you to the people in the diaspora who continue to show great interest in what is happening in your country. Stay tuned with the United Workers' Party as we bring the truth to light and we present to you the solutions to the many problems that this government has created for us in St. Lucia. And we call on St. Lucians to join us in taking a stand to right the wrong. Thank you very much and good morning.